The pool incident. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. Jake wiped sweat from his brow, stepping back from the edge of his backyard pool. It had been a long, scorching day, the kind that made even the simplest tasks feel exhausting. He glanced toward the fence where she stood. Lyra, the woman he had met only days ago, but already she felt like a mystery wrapped in shadows. Her skin glowed faintly in the twilight, an almost ethereal shimmer that didn't seem quite human. The heat clung to the air, but her eyes reflected a coldness, a deep distance that made Jake's skin crawl and yet pulled him in. "Come on in," Jake called casually, trying to keep his voice steady. "The water's perfect." Lyra hesitated, her delicate fingers tracing patterns in the air. Then, with a grace that seemed to defy gravity, she stepped over the pool's edge and slipped into the cool water. The moment she entered, something shifted. The water rippled wildly, swirling in unnatural patterns that made Jake take a step back, his heart hammered in his chest. Lyra moved beneath the surface like a creature born for water, faster, more fluid than any human swimmer. Her hair floated like tendrils of light, and her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. Suddenly, the pool's surface erupted. Jets of water shot up, splashing against the walls and soaking the nearby garden. Jake barely dodged as a column of water crashed down where he'd been standing moments before. "What the hell?" Jake shouted, adrenaline rushing through him. Lyra's face twisted in confusion, then panic. She rose from the water, gasping like she was struggling to breathe. But it wasn't air she sought. It was control. The water around her churned violently, as if alive. I don't know what's happening," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jake's mind raced. Was she some kind of freak accident? An experiment gone wrong? No. There was something else, something alien. Suddenly, the pool's water surged again, this time forming a towering wave that crashed toward the house. Jake lunged, grabbing the edge of the pool and pulling himself back. "Hold still, calm down." Lyra's eyes flickered with desperation, and then with a sudden effort, she reached out, touching the water. Slowly, the violent waves subsided, the water calming like a glass sheet. Jake exhaled sharply, muscles trembling. "What are you?" Lyra shook her head, her expression haunted. "I don't know. I only know I can't stay long." Before Jake could respond, she stepped out of the pool, her body dripping with shimmering droplets that evaporated into the night air. She looked around nervously, then locked eyes with Jake. "They're coming," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Who?" Jake asked. Lyra's eyes darted toward the darkening woods beyond the fence. "They hunt me. I don't know why, but if they catch me—" A loud crack echoed from the trees, and Jake's head snapped in the direction of the sound. "Run!" Lyra shouted. They sprinted toward the house just as headlights blazed through the trees. Two black SUVs tore through the underbrush, their engines roaring like beasts. Jake slammed the door shut, heart pounding. Lyra leaned against the wall, trembling. "What did you get yourself into?" Jake muttered. Lyra looked at him, eyes pleading. "I need your help. I can't go back." Jake swallowed hard, torn between fear and fascination. This was no ordinary night. Something far bigger had just begun, and then, as if swallowed by shadows, Lyra vanished. Jake stood frozen, staring at the empty space where she had been. Jake's hands trembled as he stared at the spot where Lyra had vanished. The backyard pool shimmered faintly under the moonlight, the water still disturbed from the chaos just minutes ago. He wiped sweat from his forehead, his mind racing to make sense of what he had witnessed. Who was she? What was she? And why was she running from those dark SUVs that had burst through his quiet neighborhood like hunters after prey? But before Jake could catch his breath, the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel behind the house snapped him back to reality. He spun around, but there was no one there. A cold wind swept through the trees, rustling the leaves and sending a chill down Jake's spine. "This can't be real," he thought, shaking his head. "I must be imagining things." Still, The memory of Lyra's terrified eyes haunted him. He couldn't just let it go. He needed answers, and he was determined to find them. The next morning, Jake sat at his cluttered kitchen table, sipping strong black coffee. His laptop was open in front of him, filled with notes, images, and frantic searches. He had spent the entire night digging through public records, news reports, and social media, anything that might hint at Lyra's identity. But there was nothing. No name, no background, no sign that Lyra had ever existed before she appeared. In his backyard, his phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Stop looking for her. It's not safe." Jake's heart skipped a beat. Who could it be? Was it a warning or a threat? He was about to reply when a soft knock came at the door. Hesitant, Jake opened it to find a woman standing there, mid-30s, dark hair, serious eyes. "I'm Rachel," she said quietly. "I'm here to help." A stranger's warning, Jake invited Rachel inside. She didn't waste time. "I know about the woman you met," Rachel said, glancing nervously toward the backyard. "She's not just any visitor. There's something not of this world about her." Jake's eyebrows rose. "You know her?" Rachel nodded slowly. "More than you realize, but you have to understand, the people chasing her are dangerous. They don't just want answers, they want control." Jake swallowed hard. "Why? What is she?" Rachel hesitated, then said, "She's a refugee from another world, and if they catch her, it won't just be her fate at stake. It could change everything." Lyra's return later that evening as Jake sat alone in his living room. The air grew heavy. The lights flickered, and a faint humming filled the space. Then suddenly Lyra appeared in the doorway, looking weary, fragile, but alive. "Jake," she whispered, voice trembling. "I didn't want to come back, but I have no choice." Jake stood and reached out, but she stepped back, wary. "They'll come for me again," she said. "I don't know who they are, but their reach is long, and their intentions are not good." Jake's mind whirled. "Tell me everything, I'll help you." Lyra looked at him with a mix of hope and despair. "I wish it were that simple." Unusual phenomena. Over the next few days, strange things began happening around Jake's house. Electrical devices malfunctioned unpredictably. Lights flickered. Computers crashed. Even his phone screen flashed with strange symbols no one could decipher. Outside, the weather shifted in unnatural ways. Sudden gusts of wind, flickers of lightning despite clear skies, an eerie calm that settled over the neighborhood. Jake noticed these changes with growing unease. "What's happening?" he asked Lyra one night as they watched the sky. "It's me," she said softly. "My presence, it affects this place." Jake felt a mix of fear and fascination. "Are you dangerous?" Lyra shook her head. "No, but I'm not meant to be." Here, emotional turmoil as Jake and Lyra spent more time together. A fragile trust began to form. Jake saw glimpses of the woman beneath the alien mystery. Someone scared, lonely, desperate for connection. One night, sitting by the pool, Jake asked, "Why did you come here? Why Earth?" Lyra looked down, her eyes shimmering. "Because it was my last hope. My world is dying, and I was sent here to survive." Jake reached out, gently touching her hand. "You're not alone. I'll help you." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "I've never felt safe, but with you, maybe I can." The threat approaches, their fragile peace shattered when Jake heard noises outside the window, muffled voices, footsteps. He peeked out and saw shadowy figures moving through the yard. "Jake, they're here," Lyra whispered urgently. Jake grabbed his phone to call for help, but the signal was gone. His heart pounded as the figures closed in. "Stay quiet," Jake urged. The figures stopped just outside the fence, shining flashlights over the property. One spoke into a radio. "Target location confirmed. Initiating search." Jake felt trapped, helpless. Lyra gripped his arm. "We have to move, now." Cliffhanger. They slipped out the back door, hearts racing. The night was alive with tension, every shadow a threat, every sound a warning. Just as they reached the tree line, a spotlight slammed down on them. "Freeze!" a voice commanded. Jake and Lyra froze, caught in the beam of light. The chase was far from over. The spotlight's harsh glare burned into Jake and Lyra's eyes, freezing them in place. Jake's heart pounded like a drum, and every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere left to go. "Hands where I can see them!" the voice barked from behind the light. Jake slowly raised his hands, trying to stay calm. Lyra, trembling beside him, mirrored his movements. Out of the darkness emerged two men in dark tactical gear. Their faces were stern, cold, and professional. The taller one stepped forward, holding a device that emitted a low hum. "Identify yourselves," he demanded. Jake swallowed hard. "I'm Jake Thompson. This is my friend, Lyra." The taller man's eyes flickered briefly at the name Lyra, but he said nothing. "Friend," the shorter man sneered. "You mean alien. You're harboring an illegal alien." Jake tensed. "She's not illegal. She needs help." The men exchanged a glance. Then the taller one said, "We're with the AIC, Alien Investigation Corps. You're under surveillance, Mr. Thompson. This woman is a fugitive from off-world. You're endangering national security." Jake's mind raced. National security? Fugitive? What had Lyra gotten herself into? Lyra took a step forward, her voice shaking but firm. "I don't want trouble. I'm running from people who want to hurt me. Please, I just want to live in peace." The taller man's eyes hardened. "We don't negotiate with aliens. Come with us." A narrow escape before. Jake could respond. A strange humming filled the air. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly blue, and suddenly, with a swift motion, she grabbed Jake's hand. "Run!" she hissed. Without thinking, Jake followed her as she vanished in a flash of light, pulling him through the dense woods behind his house. The men shouted orders, but Lyra's powers shielded them. When they reappeared, they were miles away. In an abandoned warehouse by the river, Jake gasped, clutching his chest. "What? What was that?" Lyra sank to the floor, exhausted. "Teleportation. I can only do it a few times before it drains me." Jake looked around the dimly lit warehouse. Dust motes floated in the shafts of moonlight. It was quiet, except for the distant sounds of sirens and helicopters. The search was intensifying, uncovering the truth. While Lyra rested, Jake scavenged for clues. He found a crate with strange symbols etched into its surface. Symbols he had seen on Lyra's wrist earlier. He pulled out his phone and started researching the markings. Soon, he stumbled upon an encrypted forum where conspiracy theorists and UFO enthusiasts shared reports of alien sightings and government cover-ups. One post caught his eye. "The AIC is a secret agency tasked with capturing extraterrestrial refugees. They're ruthless." Jake's stomach dropped. The agency hunting Lyra was far more dangerous than he imagined. He turned to Lyra. "You said you were running from people who want to hurt you. Who are they, really?" Lyra's eyes grew distant. "They are the AIC, yes, but there's more. They work for something bigger. A coalition of governments and corporations controlling off-world refugees, experimenting on them, weaponizing them." Jake's breath caught. "That's horrific." Lyra nodded. "I escaped because I refused to be a weapon, but now they're after me to silence me." A bond strengthens. In the cold warehouse, Jake and Lyra shared their fears and hopes. Lyra spoke of her dying home world, of a mission to find sanctuary and a desperate need for allies. Jake opened up about his life. A simple man suddenly thrust into a cosmic nightmare. He wasn't a hero, but he wanted to protect Lyra, no matter the cost. That night, as they watched the stars through broken windows, an unspoken connection formed. Jake whispered, "You're not alone anymore." Lyra smiled faintly, tears shining. "Thank you, Jake, for believing in me." A new threat emerges. Suddenly, the warehouse doors burst open. Armed men in black tactical gear stormed in, weapons drawn. Jake grabbed Lyra's hand again. "They found us." The leader stepped forward, a woman with sharp eyes and a scar across her cheek. "I'm Commander Reyes of the AIC," she said, coldly. "You're coming with us." Lyra's eyes flashed blue, but her energy was depleted. Jake stood in front of her, fists clenched, not without a fight. Gunfire erupted. Jake ducked behind a crate, pulling Lyra down with him. Cliffhanger in the chaos, Jake noticed a strange device glowing on the floor. It pulsed with alien energy, possibly a teleportation beacon or weapon. He grabbed it, feeling its power surge. Through him, suddenly, the warehouse shook violently. Explosions rocked the building. "Jake!" Lyra shouted. The ceiling began to collapse. Jake made a split-second decision. He activated the device. A blinding light engulfed them, and everything went dark. The blinding light swallowed Jake and Lyra whole, dragging them into a void where time and space seemed to unravel. Jake's senses flickered, colors bled into sounds morphed into flashes of memories neither of them understood. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the light dissipated. They found themselves lying on cool, soft grass beneath a canopy of unfamiliar stars. Jake blinked, trying to steady his racing heart. Around them stretched an alien landscape, rolling hills bathed in a faint purple glow, trees with shimmering silver leaves, and a sky streaked with twin moons. Lyra groaned softly beside him, her hands glowing faintly as she tried to heal the wounds inflicted during their escape. "We made it," she whispered, voice weak but steady. "But where?" Jake stood up, scanning their surroundings. There was no sign of the warehouse, no indication of Earth. "Somewhere else," he replied. "Somewhere off-world." Lyra nodded. "Yes, the device you activated must have triggered an emergency teleportation. It brought us here." Jake's mind reeled. They were far from home, stranded in an alien world, a new danger. Despite their exhaustion, Jake and Lyra knew they couldn't stay put. Lyra's enemies would surely track them, and this strange planet held unknown dangers of its own. They started walking, hoping to find shelter or signs of civilization. As they trekked through the glowing forest, Lyra explained more about her. People, the Virelians, an ancient race scattered across the galaxy after their world was destroyed by a ruthless regime known as the Dominion. Lyra was a refugee, fleeing capture and experimentation by this Dominion's proxies on Earth, including the AIC. "They want to control all alien refugees," she said. "Use them as weapons or slaves. I escaped to warn others." Jake listened intently, feeling a mix of awe and fear. Strange encounters. Suddenly they heard movement in the bushes. Lyra instinctively raised her hand, ready to defend. Out stepped a figure, humanoid but taller, with translucent skin that shimmered faintly. Their eyes were large, iridescent, and filled with curiosity. "Greetings," the stranger said in a melodious voice. "You are far from home." Jake took a step forward. "Yes, we're lost." The stranger smiled gently. "I am Thalen, a scout of this region. You are on Elindra, a sanctuary planet hidden from Dominion eyes." Lyra's eyes widened. "A sanctuary," Thalen nodded. "A refuge for many races fleeing oppression. But danger follows even here." Jake and Lyra exchanged a glance. They were not safe yet. A fragile alliance Thalen led them to a nearby settlement, a small, vibrant community blending advanced technology with nature. The inhabitants were diverse, various alien species coexisting peacefully. Jake marveled at the blend of cultures, the peaceful energy, but the welcoming atmosphere was tinged with caution. "Dominion agents have been spotted near our borders," Thalen warned. "They seek to infiltrate and destroy us." Lyra's face hardened. "Then we must prepare. We can't let them win." Jake felt the weight of the fight ahead, a battle not just for survival, but for freedom. Secrets revealed that night, under The twin moons. Lyra shared her story with the elders. She revealed her mission to warn all refugee planets about Dominion's growing reach and to unite resistance efforts. The elders listened solemnly. One of them, an aged alien named Serin, spoke gravely. The Dominion is more powerful than you know. Their technology, their spies, they are everywhere. Jake sensed the fear beneath Serin's calm exterior. Why bring a human into this? Serin asked, looking at Jake. Lyra answered, because humans have something unique, resilience, unpredictability. Jake saved me. He's a true ally. The elders exchanged looks, then nodded. A new threat. Suddenly, alarms blared. Thalen rushed in, face pale. They're here. Outside, dark ships descended through the violet sky. Dominion forces. The settlement scrambled to defenses. Jake grabbed a weapon handed to him, a sleek energy rifle. Lyra's hands glowed blue, ready to unleash her power. The battle for Elindra had begun. Cliffhanger as Dominion troops stormed the settlement. Jake and Lyra fought side by side, but in the chaos, a figure watched from the shadows, cloaked, observing. A chilling voice whispered, "So the human and the alien refugee have found sanctuary. This ends tonight." Jake felt a cold dread settle over him. The fight was only beginning. The violet sky of Elindra darkened as the Dominion forces advanced, their sleek ships casting ominous shadows over the peaceful settlement. Jake's heart pounded, adrenaline rushing through his veins as he gripped the energy rifle tightly. Around him, aliens of every shape and color rushed to prepare defenses, their movements urgent and practiced. Lyra's hands crackled with blue, light, a fierce determination in her eyes. "They're stronger than I expected," Thalen said grimly beside Jake. "The Dominion won't stop until they wipe us out." Jake scanned the horizon, where the enemy troops disembarked swiftly, their armor glinting under the moons. "We need a plan. Fast." The battle begins. Suddenly, the air filled with laser fire and the crackling roar of energy weapons. The settlement erupted into chaos as defenders clashed with Dominion soldiers. Jake fired instinctively, taking cover behind a crystalline tree that shimmered under the moonlight. Bullets zipped past, some grazing the tree's bark, others hitting the ground with explosive impacts. Lyra moved like a force of nature, her hands glowing brighter as she unleashed waves of energy that sent enemies flying back. "Cover me!" she shouted to Jake. "I need to get to the control tower." Without hesitation, Jake nodded and provided cover fire as Lyra sprinted forward. The control tower. Reaching the control tower, Lyra began hacking into the settlement's defense systems, her fingers dancing over an alien console. Jake kept watch, his eyes scanning for threats. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind him, a Dominion soldier, silent and deadly. Jake spun around, firing, but the soldier dodged with unnatural speed. They fought fiercely, exchanging blows and shots. Lyra's voice crackled through the comm. "Jake, I'm initiating the shield. Hold them off." With a final burst, Jake disarmed the soldier and knocked him unconscious. Breathing heavily, he rushed back to Lyra's side just as a shimmering force field enveloped the settlement. A temporary reprieve, the shield stabilized, repelling Dominion projectiles. For a moment, the battle paused, and the defenders regrouped. Lyra looked exhausted but resolute. "This shield will hold for a limited time. We need to evacuate non-combatants and prepare for a counterattack." Jake nodded. "Where do we go?" "Deep. Underground. Elindra's caves are vast and secure. I'll guide you." Descent into darkness. The group hurried to a hidden entrance beneath a large rock formation. Inside, the air was cool and damp, illuminated by bioluminescent fungi that cast eerie glows on the walls. As they ventured deeper, Jake felt a strange sensation, a mix of awe and unease. Lyra whispered, "These caves hold secrets older than any of us." Suddenly, a rumble shook the tunnels. "We're not alone," Thalen said, Voice tense, the ancient chamber. They reached a vast chamber filled with ancient alien technology, glowing glyphs and intricate machines long dormant. Lyra approached a console, her eyes widening. This technology, it could turn the tide. Jake examined the symbols, realizing this was a repository of lost knowledge from the Varelian ancestors. "We can use this to fight back," Lyra said, "but activating it may draw attention." Betrayal. Among us. Just then a sharp click echoed. Everyone froze as a laser sight locked onto them. A figure stepped out of the shadows, a Varelian elder named Kyle, known for his wisdom but now revealed as a traitor. "I'm sorry," Kyle said coldly. "The Dominion promised me power and safety. You're fools if you think you can resist." Lyra's eyes blazed. "Kale, you'll regret this." Kale raised a device, sending a pulse that disabled their shields. Cliffhanger Dominion forces flooded. Into the chamber, weapons raised. Jake, Lyra, and their allies stood surrounded. Cashil smirked. "It ends here." But in the darkness, a low growl echoed, a presence awakening from the depths of the caves, something ancient and powerful, ready to tip the scales. The awakening and the truth. The cavern trembled beneath their feet, ancient, stones shifting as if breathing. The air grew thick with power, raw, primordial energy surging from the depths. Jake's pulse quickened, his grip tightening on his weapon, eyes scanning the shadowed corners of the vast chamber. Lyra's hands glowed with fierce determination, the last flicker of the shield now gone. Their small group was trapped, surrounded by Dominion troops and the traitor Kyle, but the real danger was awakening from below. The ancient guardian. Emerges a deep growl echoed through the cavern, low and resonant. From the darkness, a massive figure emerged, towering and otherworldly. Its body was a blend of crystalline structures and organic muscle, glowing with an eerie blue light. The Guardian of Elindra, a legendary protector long thought myth, had awakened. The Dominion soldiers faltered, their disciplined ranks shaken by the sheer presence of the creature. Kyle's confident smirk vanished, replaced by cold fear. Lyra stepped forward, arms raised in cautious greeting. "Great Guardian, we seek only to defend our home and preserve peace." The Guardian's voice rumbled, ancient and wise. "Your courage has awakened me, but the threat you face is greater than even I can withstand alone. An unlikely alliance." Jake stepped beside Lyra. "Then we fight together. We won't let the Dominion destroy Elindra or its people." The Guardian's eyes shone brighter. "Then you must understand the truth. The Dominion's hunger is not just for conquest, but for the power that lies in these caves." Lyra nodded. "The ancient technology here can reshape the balance of the universe." The Guardian lowered its massive head. "It is time to reveal what has been hidden. The lost history. The chamber walls illuminated with shifting glyphs, telling the story of an ancient war between the Varelians and the Dominion. Millennia ago, the Varelians had discovered a source of energy capable of creation and destruction, the heart of Elindra. The Dominion, craving absolute power, sought to claim it. The Guardian was created to protect this energy, a last line of defense, but the Dominion's power grew, forcing the Varelians to hide the heart deep within the caves and erase its location from all memory, except for the Guardian. A choice. Of power, Lyra turned to Jake. "If we activate the heart, we could repel the Dominion once and for all." Jake hesitated. "But at what cost? Such power could corrupt anyone." The Guardian nodded. "True strength lies not in power, but in restraint." Kyle, desperate, lunged toward the heart's core. "I will take its power and bring order." Before he could reach it, Jake Intercepted, their struggle fierce. The final battle, amidst the swirling energy, Jake and Kyle fought, not just with weapons but with wills. Lyra summoned all her strength, channeling the Guardian's power to create a protective barrier, Dominion. Soldiers charged, but the Guardian unleashed waves of energy, scattering them like leaves in a storm. The chamber shook as the battle raged, ancient power clashing with human courage and alien wisdom. Victory and sacrifice, Jake finally overpowered Kyle, disarming him. Kyle collapsed, defeated but unrepentant. "You don't understand. Power is everything," Jake shook his head. "No, humanity taught me otherwise." With Lyra's guidance, Jake approached the heart. Instead of seizing its power, he placed his hands gently on its surface. The heart pulsed warmly, responding to his humility. The Guardian's voice echoed, "You have chosen wisely." Peace restored. The Dominion forces retreated, their fleet crippled by the Guardian's renewed strength and the united defense of Elindra's people. Jake and Lyra stood among their allies, weary but hopeful. The heart's energy spread through the caves, healing and restoring balance. The lesson Lyra spoke softly to Jake as they watched the dawn rise over Elindra. Power without compassion is destruction, but power with empathy and restraint can create miracles. Jake nodded. Humans have much to learn from the stars, and the stars from humans. Epilogue. Back on Earth, Jake stood by his pool, the memory of Elindra vivid in his mind. The alien woman who once emerged from the water was no longer just a mystery. She was a reminder that humanity's future depended on courage, understanding, and the choice to protect, not dominate. As the sun set, Jake smiled, ready for whatever came next. The end.